This podcast is meant for general health information and is not meant to override any medical advice. All questions will be screened and not contain any personal information. If you want a private consultation, contact us via positivechoice.org, or you can contact your provider directly. Thank you and enjoy the episode.
Hello, and welcome to the Positive Choice Wellness Podcast. My name is Melanie, and I'm an exercise physiologist.
My name is Kimberly, and I'm a registered dietitian.
And hello, my name is Brandon Hyatt, and I am a personal trainer.
You're not a kinesiologist today? Or adjunct professor today?
I like to change it up every podcast, right? I like to stay humble. Let's just keep it one at a time. I don't need to say it all at once. I'm not that type of person that needs that attention. But you're right, I am an adjunct professor. I am many other things as well. And as are both of you. You're both very multi-talented people. We were just talking before the podcast about all the hats that Melanie wears, doing a lot of development. She's on the development team, right? Graphic design.
Yep.
Kimberly's got some awesome projects she's working on too for sports nutrition.
I know.
Yeah, thank you.
But today, we're not talking about any of that.
No.
We're talking about strength training, right?
Heck yeah.
Yes.
Well, what was interesting is a little bit ago, a few weeks ago, we were trying to figure out what would be some topics we could just discuss. And one of the things we haven't talked about in 60 something episodes at this point is strength training. That's something we haven't talked about truly in a long time. And I felt like it's time to revisit.
Sounds good to
60
me.
episodes ago. Wow, that was a long time ago.
A little bit more than that, probably. Yeah, no, it definitely was before your time here.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Fresh eyes, fresh lens. We're going to start off with a fun conversation around that. And I really think this is a great topic for everyone in general because, we hear a lot about strength training through our programs at Positive Choice. Is something I think we talk about ad nauseum almost, really strength train. But then the question usually is followed up with okay, how? So
how do I get rid of this?
Yeah, and Brandon's waving his arm around if you couldn't see through the mic. But yeah, so I figured, Brandon, you mentioned wanting to kind of talk about programming, and we can kind of define that for a second since that feels like it'll be the general theme today. But, if we're going to talk about strength training, we're trying to talk about strength training programming. What's that? What is programming?
So as a personal trainer, I teach people how to do strength training, how to do exercises correctly. But almost every client of mine inevitably asks me at some point, hey, I was working out on my own with exercises you showed me, but I just didn't know how to put them all together into a program, into a workout, into my weekly routine. I know how to squat, but I don't know how to put them all together. I don't know what to do. And what they're asking is, I don't know how to program. And so that's what programming is how we structure and organize our exercises day by day, week by week.
Okay. See, I like definitions. Everyone knows that about me, though. I like to define things.
Right.
Okay. It's always a challenge, right? With a new client, a new person that we're working with, who is okay, where do I begin? So what are your first steps in this? How do we get started? What is this whole process like?
So first way to get started is don't worry about programming.
Okay, scratch everything we've said. Come on, let's go.
Don't worry about it because there's a step that needs to happen first before that.
Okay.
And I think that is just getting consistent and getting comfortable being in a workout space. I just had a client today tell me that he went on the treadmill for 30 minutes, then he got the weights, and he felt like he was doing everything wrong, and so he left. And so I had to talk to him today and say, hey, you're just getting started out. I just want you to be in the gym. And I bet you that you are doing more correct than wrong with those exercises. And doing them all correct is not the point. Because if that's the point right now, think about how you just felt, your attitude. That's going to be your attitude forever about exercise. And it's not going to happen. So let's just focus on you getting comfortable in that space, not worrying about the technique, not worrying about the programming. Do some stuff that you're familiar with that makes you feel good. Get consistent at that, and then let's talk about programming.
I like that. I think That's actually a great beginning point because a lot of people are really intimidated by workout spaces, whether it's at a gym or even in their own home gym. But there's a lot of intimidation around that, especially with a lack of knowledge. So I think it is that's a great tip. Just get in there, get comfortable
Hmm.
first, because you go in and you've never been in a gym, you're gonna feel like, ah, what do I do in here? And then like your client did, you leave. You just don't know, so you leave. You
Yeah.
feel overwhelmed. It's not a fun feeling.
No.
No. So let's fast forward now. This client is now comfortable and confident in the gym. They've just been walking around to random machines. Yeah, I'm doing my exercise. I don't care how it looks. I'm confident in myself, and they're ready for some programming now. So,
Okay.
what does that look like, right? So, I think a
Mm.
good first step is understanding how to organize all of the exercises into just a few categories. Because,
Okay.
Melanie, how many exercises, Kimberly, how many exercises are out there for strength training?
I'll
Oh,
let Kimberly
gee.
go first.
Dare I say hundreds? I don't know. There's a lot.
Right. There's like hundreds for probably my arms.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Like there's more than we can even possibly count, because of course every personal trainer has their own personal variations of certain exercises. So
It's
while there's a
true.
lot of overlap, there's also quite a bit of like minutia that we can get into with these exercises as well.
Hmm.
Yeah. And like, have either of you ever walked into a big gym before and just been like, that's a lot of machines. I've never even seen some of these before.
Yeah. Yeah. Staring at the pictures like, how do I hook this up? Where do I sit?
Yeah.
I don't know. I get
So
excited, but
there's,
I'm biased, so I'm not the right person to ask that question to. I'm like, ooh, excited,
I
yay!
mean, there's like so much in a gym to do, right? So I think the first step of programming is knowing how to sift through all of those exercises and machines and how to organize them in just a few movements and a few muscle groups. So
Okay.
do either of you have any guesses on what those could be?
I mean,
Well,
if which one are you referring to? Movements or muscle groups?
Both.
Okay.
Either whatever one you're more comfortable asking.
Okay. Well, I always love to talk about muscle groups, but then I can get really into the weeds. So I don't know if you want me to go first on that, because I will get into the weeds. Um, but I usually, gosh, I have a specific way I like to approach it. It's not the only way. It's just my style, but I tend to go from larger muscles to smaller muscles in order of fatigability. That's generally my rule as far as setting up a workout routine, which means if we're to pinpoint all the muscle groups that we have our legs, which I could get into the weeds about. It's not just legs. There's multiple aspects of legs. We can get into that, but I won't. I'll keep it broad. Then we have chest and
No, let's do
back.
it.
Okay. Because you have your hips, you have your calves, you have your quads, you have your hamstrings, you have your anterior tibialis, you have your ankles, you have your toes, your feet. There's so many aspects of the legs that we can touch on that we could be a whole day in the gym just legs. So
mm,
that part, a lot of stuff there. Then we have chest and back. I like to pair up muscles, which I think you're hoping I would say this, push and pull muscle groups.
Oh,
I like to pair those
woo,
together. I know. I'm
yeah.
just like, Brandon's gonna get
Push and
excited.
pull, movement
Push and
patterns.
pull,
There we
which we'll
go.
explain. We'll explain because, like, obviously, chest, you push doors, and pull, you pull doors open, right? Then
mm.
we have bis and tris, so opposing muscle groups on either side of the arm, similar reasoning. Then shoulders, and then I usually end with abs because my goal is to burn them out, because that's what's keeping us balanced every day, all day. So that's the last thing I want us to do, because that's where you should just go for gold. Have at it. Get them done. That's generally sort of my approach to it. I don't know if that is what you were looking for as an answer.
Hey, well, I think that was really insightful to hear how you train your clients. Sounds like you start with the big muscle groups,
Mhm.
um, working on multi-joint movements,
Mhm.
possibly, and then maybe go into those single joint exercises on the smaller muscles, and then finish with the abs. I love to
Mhm.
finish a workout with abs too. It just feels right um, to do that. And you mentioned push and pull, so those are like the two main movements for our upper body, along with like rotation, right?
Yep.
Um, so push and pull. So push muscles are chest, shoulder, triceps, and then pull is like back and biceps. And of course, there's a lot of muscles in the back, but we just call it back and biceps.
Yeah. As I
Um,
said, we could get in the weeds. I'm not gonna, but we could. For this
yeah,
podcast, we'll keep it surface level. We'll keep it a little easier.
yeah. And then what about the lower body? What movement patterns would you say there are for lower body? Most people usually say there's like two to three.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's about 3 or 4, give or take.
Yeah. So like squat, right?
Mhm.
So
You still
a
push with the
squat,
legs too.
hinge,
Mhm.
and then lunge are usually the three main categories. Some people like to put lunge into squat because it's a knee dominant movement.
Mhm.
So like we have hip dominant movements and knee dominant movements for our lower body. What were you going to say were the other ones, Melanie?
Oh, I was just say like push because you can do push with legs. Like people don't think about that. It just depends on your body positioning too and gravity.
So what would be like an example of a push exercise for the legs?
Leg press, donkey kicks.
Okay.
Mhm.
That makes sense. You're like pushing something away
Yep.
with a knee dominant movement,
Yep.
right? So most strength exercises, let's kind of get back, let's get to our point. We've been like really setting up this answer for a while now, I think. In my opinion, in my expertise, most strength training exercises can be categorized into push movements, pull movements, squat movements, and hip hinge movements. With, of course, some other smaller categories. But if we can help people learn how to categorize all the machines and dumbbell exercises and strength exercises into those four categories, it's really simple to program a workout.
Yeah. I like that. And I think that's an important aspect of it because, to kind of agree with you there, it is good to kind of target the certain movement patterns. Now, for the average person who's just starting, would you recommend doing that, or would you want to focus more on like just do something? Is that what I would do, or like what would your style be, Brandon?
So I would say, like, if they got to that point where they're comfortable in the gym and they're working out, they have a routine, but they want to really check in and say, hey, am I like training holistically? Am I training all my muscles in the right amount or the right quantity? Then I'd say, yeah, let's look and see. Let's make sure that you're actually doing some pull exercises, because some people just do a lot of push and because they can see those muscles in the mirror
Mhm.
when they're training them. Or maybe they're really only doing squat exercises and they're not learning how to hip hinge.
Mm.
So I would take a look at that. But yeah, for a holistic training program, for strength training, you want to make sure that you're training those four movements
Okay.
primarily. Yeah.
Okay. Now, with that being said, then, is there a specific type of equipment someone should be using? Because we're talking about going to the gym, but you go to the gym and like there's machines, there's weights, there's TRX bands, there's bands.
Mm.
We could go on and on and on. There's dumbbells. Like what do? You walk in like, there's so many things to pick from. How do I know which ones are doing that?
Yeah, there's a lot of exercise modalities, right? You just named a bunch of them, Melanie. And these main movements can be trained in any of those pieces of equipment. It's really what's available, what are you comfortable with, and what do you want to use? Maybe you love using dumbbells because you like the freedom to take them over to a less crowded area. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
You can do push, pull, squat, hinge with a dumbbell.
Right. I wanted to add something here because this is kind of something I work with people as well. And I usually suggest if you're newer at the gym and you want to start strength training, but you're just like, I just don't know what to do or how to do it properly. And maybe you don't have the funds to hire a trainer to educate you on how to do those movements. And the internet can be a scary place. I usually suggest to people, and you can let me know if this is maybe what you suggest or have heard of this, but I usually suggest using machines first when you're first getting into the gym if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, because essentially it's putting you on rails. Like when you go bowling and like as a little kid, they put the little railings up so you don't get a gutter ball.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
essentially a machine that's forcing you not to get a gutter ball. You will do it correctly unless you do something wildly not correct, which would be not following instructions on the machine.
Yeah.
So that's
Mm.
that's usually my approach with people who are brand new is like, hey, just start with machines. There's nothing wrong with machines. It's not a cop out. It's not cheating. It's just
Yeah.
forcing you into the right form. What are your
Okay,
thoughts on that? Oh, go ahead.
sorry, I was just gonna say that's what I was gonna ask because when I first started strength training, that's what I was told was like there's no harm, go in and learn the movements with the machines first because it's easier like with your form and stuff than like going straight for the free weights. So I was gonna ask that.
Yeah. I really like that advice a lot. And I absolutely agree with it. And I just worked out today and I use mostly machines. And I'm not even a beginner. So there's
Hmm.
uh, endless applicability to machines. In fact, research shows that when you compare free weights to machines both lead to increased strength, increased range of motion, flexibility, and functioning of daily life and athleticism. So
Mhm.
sometimes people like to label machines as like, oh, it's doing everything for you. You just kind of move it, but it's still training that nervous system to fire those muscles off. And there's still a lot of postural control opportunity with machines. Like, if you're doing a seated row where you're pulling those handles towards your ribs, there's still opportunities to keep your shoulders down and back and keep your neck up tall, not looking down. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's a really good tip. And I tell my clients, after talking to them about the fundamental movement patterns, push, pull, squat, hinge, go look at the machines and find machines that look like they're a push or a pull. Go look and see which machines look like they're more of a squat or a hinge, or a hip machine or a knee machine, just
Mm-hmm.
to kind of help people put on the lenses, right? Because if you can start seeing exercise through those lenses, that makes a lot more sense. Like, oh, even though this machine has to be pulling at this weird angle, and I had to set up the seat this way, and it's big, or I had to add weights to it, still fundamentally, this machine I am pulling.
Yep.
And that just makes a lot of sense to people when we can label things.
Yeah. So, okay. So as far as programming, obviously focusing on the 4 type of movement patterns and then coupling muscles together, ideally within that pattern, right? Now, this is a question I get a lot, and I figure you probably do as well. How much weight do you use?
Mhm.
Mhm.
What do you do?
Yeah. So not too much, but not too little.
That's a good answer.
Yeah. Because here's the thing. If you start with too little weight, that weight doesn't give your muscles enough feedback. It doesn't
Mhm.
give your
Mhm.
body enough feedback to feel the tension.
Yeah.
So, and if you do too much, well, we all know why you shouldn't lift too much weight. You won't be able to lift it as well.
Or you might get injured.
Possibly, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true. I read on social media, okay, so I just want to know if this is true, that the last, like, let's say you're doing 10 bicep curls, the last 2 or 3 repetitions of every set you do should be like, woo, okay, I need to be almost done here. This is getting hard. And that's how you know what your weight should be. Does that sound accurate?
Bingo.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's what I tell people 100%. Yep.
Okay. So
That
those
is what
last
we
2 to 3
call
reps.
Yep, that's what we call training to near failure, or
Mhm.
training with
Oh.
2 to 3 reps in reserve.
Yep.
So you
Oh,
got a
okay.
gas tank. At the end of your
Mhm.
set, your gas tank should be about a quarter empty, or sorry, a quarter full, maybe an
Mhm.
Okay.
eighth full. So you want to leave a little gas in the tank, because the research shows that training to failure does not provide any additional benefits than training with
Oh.
a few reps in reserve.
Nice. Which
Okay,
is good
that's
to
cool.
know. Yeah.
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 I think also an important point to mention with that too, right? Because we're talking about, training to almost failure, which is essentially what I tell people. Like, ironically, strength training is kind of about failure, not about success, weirdly enough.
That
But the
is.
thing I think that's important to mention there is what you said, which is getting to the point where it's really stinking hard, because
Mhm.
that's the right weight. To get to the point where the last 3 or 2 repetitions are really challenging, that's the indication you've chosen the correct weight for yourself. Because I get
Okay.
that question a lot as a trainer, where people are like, well, how much should I lift for this? And I have to tell them, like, I honestly don't know. I can give you a good guess, but I have no clue, because this is where I get a little science nerdy a little bit here. But the cool thing about muscle is, like, we think size has to do with strength, but actually doesn't have much to do with strength at all. It's the amount of muscle fibers doing the action. So you can see someone who's teeny tiny, but if all their well, not all, but most of their muscle fibers are contracting during this movement, they're very strong, right? You can have a
Mhm.
very buff person who doesn't have a lot of fiber contraction. They have big muscles. They're not very strong.
It's
It's
like
an
me.
interesting conundrum. Oh, it's like you, Brandon.
Yeah, like I say that jokingly, but seriously, I have a client this morning squatting 150% of his body weight,
Wow.
and I can't do that. I can't squat 150% of my body weight. And this
Mhm.
guy is, in his late 40s, and he's doing 8 reps at
Hmm.
150%. So I weigh like 225. That would mean I'd have to squat like 330 or 340 8 times. I cannot do that right now. So
Yeah, that's a lot.
Wow, that is a
strength,
lot.
yeah, strength
Yeah.
is about the nervous system.
It is.
right?
Interesting.
It's about
It
those
is.
nerves
Motor
being very
neural
efficient.
pathways.
Yeah.
Oh, don't get me into motor neural control. This is like my jam. Oh man, I don't want to get in. This is not this time of conversation, but we will one day. I want to. But that's what muscle memory is. I put air quotes up for that. So okay. Now they kind of established like, yeah, machines are great. Pick a weight that's going to challenge you enough. You want to aim for these certain movement patterns. All these things are kind of laying into like how we can build a workout routine. Uh, this kind of comes into then questions that we typically get. I don't know if you've gotten these before, Kimberly. Like, what about swimming? Does that count?
Yes, absolutely. I've gotten
There's
that one
resistance.
before.
It's a pool. It's a pool.
Yeah. Yep. It's a pool. So does it count, Brandon? Solve the debacle, because I've definitely been asked that more than one time. Is swimming
Okay.
strength training?
More than one. Come on,
I'll
Kimberly.
answer. Well, let me ask you both. You're both swimmers. I'm not. I know how to swim, but I'm not a swimmer like you both. So let me ask you, how many reps of paddling in the water does it take for you to get into near failure?
Like a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like what, 20?
Mm-hmm.
20
no,
times
no,
a lot
mm-mm.
more than that. No.
Like, okay.
You could swim for probably hours on end
Yeah.
before you. I mean,
Okay,
if you've grown up a swimmer, I guess it's different if you've never swam before. But
So if we're
Yeah.
going to consider swimming strength training, then you have to do a set of potentially thousands of reps before you get to near failure.
okay, I love
Oh,
that description. That was good.
so
Yep. I like
I
that.
guess if you consider that strength training, you're getting to
Yeah.
near failure eventually, right? Or if you're like a super, if you're not very strong and that is really hard for you and you do get exhausted by maybe the 10th or 20th stroke, then yeah, maybe
Mhm.
at that time it is building your strength. But as your body adapts, you're going to be able to get to Melanie and Kimberly's level where they can swim for, I think they said 20 miles without fatiguing. And at that point, that is
Verbatim,
not
yes.
strength training. That is endurance training. They are working
Yep.
their type 1 muscle fibers. They are working their cardiovascular system
Mhm.
primarily. Not
Mhm.
that strength training doesn't. So no, swimming is absolutely not strength training.
Yeah, I
It is.
Love that.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. And what I've told people
Wow.
historically, I do, I really do. And I'm a swimmer, and I'm like, swimming is
I'm
not
not a
strength
swimmer
training.
though.
But
That
swimming
makes
isn't
me
strength
feel really
training.
good.
It's
Yeah.
not like we're swimming through wet concrete, you know what I mean?
No.
It's yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like I always feel for the people who are like, but I swim all the time. Isn't it so good? I'm
I
like, it is
know.
great. Keep at it,
Mhm.
my friend. Like, please keep
Yeah.
swimming. Now, what I tell people, like, get this a lot, like hiking, riding a bike, swimming, are those strength? Because there's resistance
Mhm.
applied in those scenarios. And I said, to a point, and then you don't get anything else from it. So eventually it's big called getting in shape. Once you get into that shape, now you're done building muscle for it. And now it's just kind of cardiovascular endurance at that point.
Yeah, it's like maintenance.
Yeah, kind of a maintenance mode.
Yeah.
But I do share this. This is my little tidbit for. I dropped my mic on myself. I'm talking with my hands. No one can see me. But the tip I share with people typically is like, if you're a good swimmer, like the thing about swimming is all about efficiency. How minimal amount of calories and movement you can do in the water to get as far as you possibly can. That is what swimming is about. If you are not a swimmer, you're not trained like that. So you're probably gonna, for lack of a better word, suck. And you're not gonna be very fast. It's gonna be really hard to move across the pool. That means you're actually utilizing more energy, burning more calories, building more muscle, and working probably 3 or 4 times harder than Kimberly or I would ever be working.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mm.
So there's pros and cons to being a good swimmer.
Like me.
Yay.
That's
Right.
what would happen to me. Okay.
Okay.
I tell people the worse you are at it, the better it is for you. Come on.
That's true, actually. Yeah, the things that we're not good at are usually challenging us in a different way. Okay, this is kind of a switch in topic, but I feel like it's related-ish in the realm of like, is this enough type of thing? Because I have absolutely been asked this before, is physical therapy. I do my physical therapy movements for my exercise during the day. Isn't that good enough? Doesn't that count as my strength training? So I'm curious.
Wow.
You guys' take. Yes.
I've heard that before too.
I have never actually heard that before.
No. Like people
Oh.
want to like fill it out on their little because we, collect vitals and things like
Did
that. They're like,
PT.
yep, 20 minutes every day
It's
or whatever.
certainly exercise, right? That's physical activity, right?
Mhm.
It's physical
movement.
activity. It is. Now, I don't know how well versed you are in physical therapy knowledge, Brandon. That was my original career path before I chose this career path, so I have a little
Yeah,
bit of
me too,
background
actually.
knowledge on it.
Oh,
Perfect.
Yeah.
Um,
fascinating.
so what do you want to share about PT in terms of like the way you do PT versus the way you build muscle? Like what's the differentiating factor there?
Okay, so when I have had clients or patients show me their little pamphlet of exercises from their PT, usually it's like they're exercises that are really focused and specific on improving function of a specific injury or joint.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal of that training isn't necessarily complete full body strength, or um, it's about helping that specific joint get stronger, have more range of motion
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
reduce pain and help it function better. So it certainly is physical activity, and it certainly may actually be strength training at first. And this is not to say that physical therapists don't have their patients do strength training as part of
Mm-hmm.
their rehabilitation, but
They definitely do. I've seen it.
for the most part, it's these people are using a TheraBand and they're doing really, really high rep exercises, and so it's not quite strength training. It is certainly resistance exercise. It's certainly beneficial,
Mm-hmm.
but at some point they have adapted. People are
Mm-hmm.
showing me their packets from like several years ago. They're like beyond that level, and
Yeah.
they need additional stimulus they
Mm-hmm.
to drive neural adaptation, to drive muscular adaptation and growth. Those body weight glute bridges for
Mm.
3 sets of 10 are not going to drive those muscles to get stronger anymore.
No.
Right.
So it's kind of ambiguous.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm actually really glad you're bringing that up because that kind of brings me to the other question of just like, you know, doing exercises like that, lots and lots and lots of repetitions, that's not a strength training style for like building more muscle mass. As you're saying, it's
Mm-hmm.
more for functionality, range of motion, improve mobility, etc. So when people consider physical therapy some form of like training, I usually say no, it's not. It's a form of physical activity. It's actually like I kind of categorize it almost like a completely different thing. It's like the
Mm-hmm.
purpose of physical therapy is its own thing. It's unique to physical therapy, and personal
Mm-hmm.
training or strength training or whatever it is that you have otherwise is specific to that. So it's like two separate categories that have a lot of overlap but are not really the same.
Mhm.
Gotcha. I like that. So it sounds like it's a healthy thing to do. I mean, obviously, because of all the good increasing mobility and healing and all that good stuff, but you should do it in addition to strength training. It doesn't take the place of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. I like
And
that.
most people I've worked with, they're done with physical therapy by the time they see me. And so it's like, yeah, it's time to move on. It's time to go to this next step of your recovery, which is
Mm-hmm.
this next level on this foundation that you built with physical therapy.
Yeah.
I like that.
Now, okay. So like, what about like if you want to improve flexibility and balance? So it's how does strength training apply there? Does it involve flexibility and balance, or is it strictly just building muscle? Like what we got going on? I know the answer, but I'm just gonna pretend I don't.
Okay.
I don't know the answer.
So strength training actually increases flexibility just as well as strict flexibility training. So, and it also improves balance because we are better balanced when our muscles are stronger. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of strength training exercises that challenge our balance.
That's true.
So that's the
What?
incredible thing
Yeah.
about strength training is it's not just about getting stronger. You're going to get more flexible. You're going to have better coordination and balance, because think about doing a squat. You have to think about several things happening at the same time: grabbing the floor with your feet, making sure that
Mm-hmm.
they don't pronate, making sure that the knees are driving outwards so that you do not have knees caving in. You're sitting back in your hips, keeping your spine mostly neutral. I mean, there's a lot of coordination going on there. So
Yeah.
there's no excuse not to do strength training.
That's
I like
good.
that statement a lot. Thank you, Brandon. There's no excuse, just do it. Uh, okay, so then what would be this is the question I get all the time. What's the right length of time to do a strength training workout? Because I get that question every time I talk about strength training. How
I
long?
love that one. Yes, because people think, well, okay, no, I can't say people think, like I know, but it comes across as though people think it's like an hour or nothing. Like if I can't do a whole hour of strength training, there's no benefit to me doing anything. Do you know what I mean? So anyways, I'm interested in that one too.
Well, I mean, I have several answers for that depending on who's asking it. Because if it's a not untrained person asking me that, I'm going to give a different answer than a trained person, because research shows that you need to probably get somewhere between 10 and 20 sets per muscle group per week of volume in order to continue to get stronger and larger muscles. But for most of our people, they're untrained. They're looking to get started. So it may not be as practical for me to give them that advice. So I like to recommend that they will do a workout snack or have a workout appetizer, or maybe when they have time, they can do a workout entree or full meal, right?
I
So,
love that.
so Kimberly, you're the registered dietitian here. What is the the position stance statement on workout snacks according to a registered dietitian?
I like that term, workout snacks.
I love that. Okay, wait. Are you asking me like, I'm confused. Are you asking me about actual food, or are you asking me about working out? Like do 10 squats and then woohoo, that was your workout snack.
Is it a dietitian question or a fitness question is what
It's
she's
a
asking?
it's a dietitian question. Like how would you define a workout snack like versus a workout meal?
Right. That's a good question. Okay, I would, oh my gosh, no one judge me if I get this wrong. I would describe a workout snack as like, if you have 5 minutes to do a little workout video, great. If you can stand up and sit down in your chair 12 times, beautiful. Do that. If you could do 10 push-ups on the counter, awesome. Not all back to back, but that's like throughout your day, right? I would call that a snack. And then a meal to me would be more like, you got at least probably like 15 to 20 minutes designated towards intentional movement. Yeah. How's that sound?
Okay. I love that. And
Okay.
let me ask a follow-up question. How would you define a workout buffet?
Oh my.
Oh.
Goodness me. Gosh, well, the first thing that comes to my mind is some kind of like athletic event, to be honest. But for the average person, I would say it's something that's more like, I don't know I don't know, over an hour? I don't know. It's a lot. I feel like it would be.
Yeah.
If-
And I'm asking you this like I have like the official answer, but I
Oh,
don't. I'm
please.
just being
Oh,
silly.
I was gonna say,
okay.
like, I don't think there's an answer, but I'm not gonna say anything because I'm
Yeah.
very entertained right now. So
Can you tell? I'm like so flustered. I'm like, what?
we're putting Kimberly on the spot. Like,
Come on,
here,
Kimberly, you're the
dietitian, answer
registered
fitness
dietitian.
questions.
Come up with the snack answers. Hello.
Snacks, registered dietitian. Come on.
Come on.
I know.
No, but in all seriousness, people can do workout snacks. They can do, if they have 5-10 minutes. That is so much better than nothing, and that will probably provide enough stimulus for your body to change and adapt. If you have 20 minutes, that's awesome. But I would say the most time you ever need to spend working out is probably in 60 minutes.
Okay.
Unless like you're doing a combined like aerobic training, you're going to go for your walk or your elliptical for 30 minutes, and then you're going to do 45 minutes of strength training. But today, I worked out for about 40 minutes, and it was great. I could have worked out longer, but I felt like I should probably get home for this podcast. So I only did a 40-minute workout.
Which we
So
appreciate. Thank you,
Yay.
yeah, it was
That
totally okay.
I like that though, because I had heard one time that the workout snacks were beneficial because some people do their workout for like 20, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever, and then sit the rest of the day, right?
I
Which
call that
that
an active
workout,
couch potato.
yes, yeah, it doesn't negate the sitting that you then do the rest of the day, right? So the workout snacks I had heard were quite beneficial because you're at least dispersing movement throughout your whole day.
Yeah.
So we call
But
that non-activity exercise thermogenesis.
Non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
Yeah.
oh yeah, neat.
Yeah.
Neat. Yes,
Flip
I
the
have
A and
heard
the
of
E,
that.
but
Not-
yeah, neat.
Not Nate.
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 But
Super
yeah,
fancy term that we came up with to sound smart and cool.
I've I've realized that the exercise physiology and the kinesiology communities love their acronyms. Like we love acronyms. We have so many acronyms in our field. It's wild. So it's
Yeah,
what we're
it's because we
about.
like sounding smart and we like trying to one up each other,
Yep. It's like I did
It
my
does make
NEAT
you sound smart.
today.
right? Like, oh, I'm gonna go in and get some soft tissue work.
Like, but
Oh, okay, a
avoid
massage.
rice. Rice isn't worth that. Don't do rice.
Oh
Right.
my gosh, you guys are really making me laugh. Okay. I do have another quick question for you guys that I've been asked. Melanie, I know you said you've been asked this a lot, and so have I. There are certain muscles I've heard you can work out every single day. Abs and biceps. Is that true? You can strength train those every single day.
Yeah, you
I
can.
mean, technically, you could do that for
I mean,
anything, but
I guess
to
you
get
can,
maximal
right?
benefit,
But is it good?
I guess it just depends on their goals. What are they trying to accomplish with that? Because
Okay.
part
We
of
want
building
6 packs.
muscle, yeah, I mean, like part of building muscle is recovery because that's how you regenerate your muscle tissue. And if you don't have adequate recovery, you're not going to generate muscle at a good scale. So if you're just like slamming abs every day, always sore, how much of that is actually building more muscle versus re-tearing new muscle fibers that you've just built?
That's
Yeah,
good.
it's
So
all
that's
about
where that
volume and
whole
intensity.
Yeah. So that's where that whole rest, what is it, like
Yep.
24 to 48 hours in between groups, kind of muscle
Mhm.
groups comes into play. Okay.
Yeah. So
Good
like,
Yeah.
stuff.
they recommend like resting for 2 days in between muscle groups, but like I
Mhm.
think sometimes we take that rule too far. We get a little lazy, and
Mm.
we're not actually even pushing ourselves hard enough in the first place to really need all that rest,
Mm-hmm.
myself included. So like I
Mm.
literally train full body every time I work out because I don't know when my next workout is going to be. I don't know how long it will be for.
Mm-hmm.
So I will literally do push pull legs every day, even if it's multiple days in a row, because
Okay.
I'm only getting a little bit of each of those categories every day. So it's not like I'm going all out legs, 20 sets in a workout Monday and then another 20 Tuesday and another. No, I'm doing like 8 sets per day. I'm just dispersing my volume
Gotcha.
out more throughout the week.
Yeah.
So
Kind
That's
of a
good.
takeaway from that statement is the reality of this is do whatever you can. There's really no
Mhm.
wrong way unless
yeah,
you're really wanting to get in the weeds, in which case, hire a trainer. At that point, I would say hire somebody to
Mhm.
have prescribe you some more specific things for yourself if you feel like you need additional help. Because I like that. Like, you don't have to do this, like, I have to do it every other day, blah, blah, blah. Cause, like, sometimes, especially because
Mhm.
we know you have a child, you just don't have time, right? You
Mhm.
just can't.
mhm.
Both of
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
actually have child. I
Kimberly and
have
I
cat.
both have a
Different.
child. Not we're growing minds.
Truth.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about cats. They, if anything, just make me more active and actively make my life harder. So it's great. But
I
anyways,
know. Same concept though. Those pets keep you busy.
a little bit.
Well, no, but I get a question from a lot of people. They're like, "How do I know I'm doing it right? What's the right way? You told me to do it this way, and then I saw a video of someone doing it another way, or my friend
Mhm.
says it's supposed to be this way for the
Mm-hmm.
technique." I get that a lot.
Yep.
What is your response to people who are like, "What's the right technique?"
The right technique is where you don't get injured. But basically, I kind of just tell people it just depends on your goals. Like, again, it always depends on your
Hmm.
goals. As far as technique is
Yeah,
concerned, what do you want to get from this? If you're like, I want to be able to get up off the floor, then I'm not going to be too picky about technique. As long as you get up off the floor, that's what matters to me.
yeah,
Versus if
Mhm.
you're like, ooh, I want to go into like a powerlifting competition with deadlifts. And it's like, well, then maybe we should do some really intense, like functional training
yes,
around deadlifts. Like, it just depends on what you want to get from this routine.
See, this is why you need personal trainers, folks, so they can tell you these things and help work with you on them.
And then Kimberly's going to leave and she's going to get really buff because she's working with professionals.
So,
Exactly.
to expand on what you're saying, Melanie,
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you in your philosophy on the correct technique. It depends on their goals, and we're not just talking about like, oh, my goal is getting stronger. Like, the goal can literally be, what is your goal in this set in this moment for this exercise? Is it
Mm-hmm.
to stretch out the muscle longer and train in a full range of motion? Is it to have more stability in your back, or is it to round your back more? Because when I first started personal training, I was always like, there's one way to squat. There's one way to do a bench press. There's one way, blah, blah, blah. And I like always was looking for ways that it was wrong. But as I've been personal training now for like 8 years, the more I'm just like, there's multiple right ways. to do an exercise. What
Mhm.
it comes down to is this helping you with your goal? Is this technique or exercise modifiable to your ability level? Like, is it within your ability level? And then three, are you enjoying it? Do you enjoy the way this feels? Um, if it's making you feel sore, too bad. That's the point. But I mean, if you if you're like yeah, I like this style of a squat. I just love it. It's fun. I love using this machine to squat. Then great. Then that's the right choice. So
Mhm.
the way I
I
squat is way different maybe than Melanie or Kimberly, but we're all doing it the right way because we're doing it to meet our goals and it's
Mhm.
within our each individual ability level.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better. That's kind of the goal here is just go with it, whatever feels good for you. But I will share, I've had a couple of patients that I've worked with in the past who I have given them exercises that they did not like. They're like, "Ugh, I hate this. This is hard." I'm like,
Mm,
"Is what do you not like about it?" Like, "It's hard." And I'm like,
mm,
well, if something's difficult, maybe we should be doing it more often. And then as a result, they just keep trying. And you know what's funny is they end up really liking the exercise once they start getting better at it. I've found
mm,
I've had a few instances of that actually where people hated it at first and then they got good and
Mhm.
went, "Oh, actually, this is really great." I'm like, I don't give you guys things I wouldn't do myself. So
right.
here we go.
I don't know about you, Melanie, as a personal trainer, but me, I've noticed that some of our older adult clients, they don't like doing stuff on the floor. Have you noticed
Nope,
that?
they do not.
Yeah. And that's why they need to do those exercises more if it's appropriate for them and their bodies at that
Hmm.
moment.
Yeah.
So, like, I had a client and I gave him bear crawls and he did not like doing them. They were so hard. But like a couple weeks later, he came in and he was like going back and forth on the floor. And I was like,
Hmm.
dude, you're a totally different person in 2 weeks after doing that. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's
It's
awesome.
it's really like I prefer putting people on the floor when I can. Sometimes depending on the client, if they're like someone who struggles with it, I'll make sure every other exercise is on the floor. So guess what you're doing? You're
Mm,
getting down, then you're getting up, then you're getting down, you're getting up. Like I will do that to you. That's what
Mm.
I pay attention to the things that you're coming in with. And if your goal is to get up off the floor, I'm going to make your life pretty fun. But
yeah, because we care about
I
them.
yeah, well, we wanna make sure you're reaching your goals, and so,
Yeah.
yes, it's gonna be a love-hate relationship, we accept this fate as trainers, that's kind of the point, like, I do things that I know will benefit you, and in the end, you'll love me, but in the initial stages, you might hate me, and that's fair. I accept my fate, but the goal is to reach your goals, and what those
Yeah.
are varies by person, but as long as you can practice, things that you feel comfortable doing, and if you're scared of getting on the floor, that's where a trainer comes in, because 'cause we're there to help you and, at Positive Choice, for example, we actually bought a platform that is above the floor that we can crank up that you don't actually have to get on the floor, but we can make you stand on it like it was the floor. So we can utilize that to make you feel more comfortable to eventually get you down there. Cause that's a skill set that we lose over time. We don't even realize is our ability to get up and down off the floor. And I
Mhm.
have like a PSA on this. Like I'm so big on activities of daily living, and getting up and down off the floor is a huge aspect of that because we take it for granted when we're young. And then when things get
Mhm.
hard, what do? We stop doing
Stop.
them.
Mhm.
Yeah, we just don't. We're like, oh, well, it's hard to get off the floor. So I'll stop doing that. And then you don't. And guess what? If you don't use it, you lose it. And then as a result, you
Mhm.
lose your
Mm,
ability to get off the floor.
wow.
And then now you're a 70-year-old person who's like, if I get on the floor, I can't get up. Call the fire department. And it's like, let's find a way to rebuild the skill set. And it's absolutely possible. So, summarizing everything we've talked about, what would be the
Mm.
takeaway point here, Brandon?
Just one? Oh man. Um,
Okay, general takeaway points quickly.
let's do a little round table. I'll give a point, Kimberly, you, and we'll go back and forth.
Okay.
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 Number one first point I would say is focus just on getting exposure in the gym and in the strength training before you worry about, doing it right or doing it the best way for you.
Love
Like
that.
that.
I would say don't worry about feeling like you got to get in there for an hour. Start small. Get some snacks in there during your day, some workout snacks, and work your way up to, 10, 20 minutes of intentional time.
Hmm. And focus on different types of movements, push and pull and
Mm.
hinge and all that fun stuff, making sure that you're kind of targeting all the different ways our bodies move, essentially.
And once you have some of those foundations down, try to take your sets close to failure. So those last few reps, you're feeling the burn. You're like, ooh, I feel my heart rate going up. I'm sweating. I don't think I could do very many more of those.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
You have anything else, Kimberly?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're doing more.
We can do more. There's a lot of takeaway points. We don't have to.
There was so many. I know. I think that was
Swimming.
the one I was going to say. That's a good one. Oh yeah, swimming is not strength training.
Swimming isn't strength training. There we go. And we're done. See you later, folks.
Yeah.
But honestly, though, unfortunately, it is that time. We do have to wrap up. But we thank you so much for all this fun conversation today, Brandon. It's always fun getting to chat about stuff with you, our research guy.
Thanks. I had a lot of fun too.
Yeah. So for those of you listening at home, make sure you like, share, subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, you're welcome to leave a comment below. But with that being said, we do offer personal training services at Positive Choice. You're more than welcome to sign up. We do both virtually and in person, so you don't have to actually live in San Diego to get a training appointment with us. And on top of that, we also offer many other fitness-related services as well, not just personal training. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out. But otherwise, until next time, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.